Hey, what's up, everyone? I would like to start today's video off with a trivia question. Okay, let's see if you can tell me who made this famous quote. Here it is. I have never believed in the general practice of carrying weapons. I do not believe in the general promiscuous toting of guns. I think it should be sharply restricted and only under licenses. Who would say something like that? Dianne Feinstein? Michael Bloomberg? Gabby Giffords? Who? I'll tell you. The person who said that is Carl T. Frederick, and he said that in his testimony before Congress. He said that in 1939. Now, you might be wondering, if you're anything like me, who the heck is Carl T. Frederick? He was the then president of the National Rifle Association. Yep. Now, you might say, wow, that was kind of weird. But it was also 83 years ago, so well, it was 83 years ago. Well, personally, I don't care. I don't care if it happened 83 years ago, 20 years ago, a year ago. I don't care. For those of you who do say, well, it was a long time, the NRA's changed. Well, the NFA was actually supported, National Firearms Act, for those of you who don't know, and it was supported by the National Rifle Association, and they also helped get the 1938 Gun Control Act passed. Now, for those of you, I think a lot of you know this, but the NFA is the thing that makes it so that you have to pay your tax stamp for suppressors and those evil machine guns and those any other weapons and SBRs and short-barreled shotguns. And by the way, if you check out the history of that, they also wanted to apply it to handguns. And some of the senators said, no, that's kind of crazy because a lot of people use those for defense, and they shouldn't be treated like they're gang members. So that was taken out, but there was a lot of stuff that was stuck in there that shouldn't have been. So again, that was 1934, 1938, 1939, and the NRA was front and center, complicit with the liberals in Congress and the president at that time, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Okay. Now, later on in the 60s, there was a guy who was the governor of California. His name was Ronald Reagan. And he helped pass something called the Mulford Act. He signed it into law. And this ended up starting because the Black Panthers started protesting, and they started protesting while toting around rifles. You know, whether you agree with some of the stuff, disagree with some of the stuff that Black Panthers stood for or said or protesting, I don't really care. They have their right. They have Second Amendment rights. Were they aiming them or threatening people? No. Some people happened to be threatened by the fact that they had guns, but they were within their Second Amendment right, in my opinion. Some people are threatened by other people who walk down the street with blue hair and chains hanging off their pants. Should we ban blue hair and chains hanging off your pants? Should we ban large, muscular people who have scowls on their face because some people are threatened by them? I don't think so. But again, that was one of those things that the NRA was all for. And again, that was a Republican governor signing that. So that was also a little not so good. 1968 Gun Control Act, which restricted, shipping of guns across state lines and all that kind of stuff. It's also the law that puts serial numbers on guns, and there was also an attempt to start a registry back then. Now, they thankfully were able to stop the registry, although we'll kind of save that for later. They were able to stop the registry, but they still have serial numbers. Now, people always say, we don't want a registry, because if you have a registry, that precedes confiscation, and that is something I wholeheartedly agree with. If you have a registry, it will one day be used for confiscation. I'm going to take it back a bit further and say, if you put serial numbers on something, it will precede a registry, and the registry will precede confiscation. So really, if you're worried about confiscation, the serial numbers were really the first step in it. By allowing the serial numbers, you lay the foundation for a registry at some point. Okay? It's going to happen at some point. As a matter of fact, if you follow things, the ATF is already starting a pseudo registry as it is. Some congressmen are trying to fight this, but they're basically thumbing their nose at the law. Please check into that. So of course the NRA supported that. Okay, complicit again. And then 1986. This was actually pretty interesting. 1986, we have the Hughes Amendment, right? So that was part of the Firearm Owners Protection Act, which was, I believe, that was signed in '86. And there was a congressman or senator, I'm not sure, by the name of Hughes, who wanted an amendment in that would essentially stop the civilians from being able to purchase automatic rifles and automatic handguns. Well, some people kind of wavered, said they didn't like the idea, and it turns out that they didn't even take a formal vote on the amendment in Congress. If you remember Charlie Rangel, he was overseeing it, and they just passed it on a voice vote, which I didn't know. They passed it on a voice vote. So I tried to get the roll call for the vote to see, what the split was between Democrats and Republicans. So again, passed on a voice vote, just a bunch of people saying yes, yes or no, or aye or nay, and that's it. And it was signed into law by Ronald Reagan, and the NRA sat on their hands, and they were just fine with it. I'm not sure if because they didn't want to fight it, or if they felt, well, the rest of the law has some good stuff, so we'll just let this go. So they just gladly gave away some more of our rights, and the fellow at the head back then was Wayne LaPierre, which kind of surprised me because I didn't think he'd been around quite that long, but he's doing pretty well for himself at the NRA. If you're not up on those sorts of things, he seems to be living a very, very good and luxurious life on NRA dollars. Now you might say, well, those are all things that happened a long time ago, and you know what? You'd be right. It certainly establishes a long pattern of them being on the wrong side of gun rights. But like I said, the latest thing I mentioned to you happened 36 years ago. But you know what? I keep thinking about how 1994, the assault weapons ban got through. And especially in 2016, or 2017, I should say, which is pretty recent. We're just talking 5 years ago. We had Republicans in control of the House, Republicans in control of the Senate, and a Republican president who tend to follow NRA suggestions. We had the Hearing Protection Act, which would have taken suppressors off out of the auspices of the National Firearms Act, so that people could have purchased them just like a normal piece of equipment without paying their $200 tax stamp, and probably without waiting 8 or 9 months to get them. We could have had that taken care of. Never happened, never went up for a vote. Then we would have had the National Reciprocity Act, which was also being pushed, and that would have basically recognized concealed carry permits the same way that a marriage license is. If my wife and I go to Hawaii or California, God forbid, or South Dakota, we're still married. Even though we got married in our state, we are married anywhere because that license is recognized. I can drive in any state in the United States because my state driver's license is recognized. But yeah, the concealed carry permit is not recognized. Think about your birth certificate is recognized. If you're born in New York and you have your New York birth certificate, people aren't going to say, well, gee, where were you really born? And disregard your New York birth certificate just because you're in Wyoming now. So why would they just disregard your concealed carry permit? And again, it goes back to what Clarence Thomas said about the Second Amendment being a second-class right. Well, we had a chance to address that in 2017 and 2018 when we controlled both houses of Congress and the presidency, and nothing happened. I am pretty sure that if the NRA wanted to push that, they would have. They didn't. They didn't do anything. Lately, I'm very, very happy to see that probably about half dozen states or so in the last year have approved concealed carry. Really happy to see that. And I notice that the NRA likes to put posts up on Facebook and other social media bragging about this like they had a lot to do with it. I honestly think they had little or nothing to do with it. I think a lot of these things that happen are done by very, very hardworking and dedicated state groups. I know that in my state, we have some fantastic groups. There's maybe about 4 or 5 of them who fight tirelessly for gun rights, and I think if those 4 or 5 groups went away, I think the NRA would just kind of say, heck with them. I wouldn't trust them to help defend our rights. Those local groups do a lot of stuff. And on the national level, I am so impressed with the Firearms Policy Coalition. That's really like a no nonsense group. If you're not familiar with the Firearms Policy Coalition, check them out. They're really cool. They basically look for laws that are unconstitutional and unjust. They look for people who have been affected by these laws, and they start lawsuits. And they start them pretty quick, and they fight them vehemently to try and get our constitutional rights restored. And they're just fantastic. Another group is Gun Owners of America. Now, there's probably some other groups, but those are the two I hear about the most. And that, to be honest with you, I trust the most. I really think that they have our best interests at heart. You might also notice lately that that the NRA has been having some financial problems, and that Wayne LaPierre, the president, has it looks like he's been using it as basically his personal credit card. He's been living a very, very luxurious life on NRA funds. Now, some people try and rationalize that, saying, well, that wasn't the political action committee money. That was, just the regular funds. Well, it doesn't matter to me because money that goes into the NRA is supposed to fight for our rights. And he doesn't seem like he's someone that is fighting for our rights. It's basically, I kind of think of the NRA past. The past, it seemed like a very, very proud FUD organization. They were just kind of concerned about having their double-barrel shotguns to shoot skeet once a month. That's all they cared about. As long as they can go out with their Elmer Fudd guns and shoot skeet, they're happy. That's all they really wanted. Now the NRA is still, in my opinion, a FUD organization that is putting up an act that they're, strong constitutionalists. I don't think they are. I think they just kind of try and glom on to whatever there is. It's kind of like when very liberal people try and push for high taxes to take care of poverty. If they ever did solve poverty and ended poverty, they're all out of business. The whole industry dies. Same thing with the NRA. I think the NRA makes so much money off gun control that if they could solve gun control and really push through to get all the things changed that we wanted to get changed, they really would cease to be important. I mean, think about it. It's kind of like if you think about certain groups that supported gay marriage, let's say 15 years ago. There were a lot of groups that supported gay marriage. Well, guess what? Now it's legal in all 50 states. So the necessity for their work isn't really as necessary as it was, because, I mean, there might be times where they feel that certain rights are infringed, but basically what they were looking for has occurred. They were successful in their fight. Now you look at gun rights, and I think that you and I both know a lot of laws that we'd like to have changed. We probably think, well, civilians should be able to own full auto rifles. Civilians should be allowed to just purchase a suppressor. We should have concealed carry reciprocity from state to state. There's a lot of stuff that is wrong, and we would want to see fight. And I think that if those things were remedied and we had them the way we wanted them, you probably wouldn't have all the organization and need for organization as you do now. Well, the NRA knows that. Okay, and honestly, I think they love when they're down like we are now with a Democrat in the White House and Democrats running Congress, because it gives them a position where they can kind of frame them as the enemy, which they are, and raise money off it to accomplish nothing. But then when we actually do have people who would vote our way, they kind of sit on their hands. Almost like they're afraid they can get things to go the right way, and it would kill the golden goose. Now, on a local level, it kind of pains me when I see local ranges require NRA membership. I will not get an NRA membership just to appease a local group, and and get a range membership. Won't do it. Um, I was a member of the NRA maybe 10 years ago. And then when I saw some of this nonsense, I just said, no way. No way. After I became a little more up to date on the history, the president, and the wrongdoings, no, not going to happen. So that's just my little spiel on the NRA. As far as all this stuff, I really would encourage you to do your own research on these types of things. As far as, like, try and Google National Firearms Act and National Firearms Act NRA, the Gun Control Act of '68, and then you can type it again with NRA, and you can find out some of the things they've done over the years, and some of the things they've assisted in. Because you got to realize, not only did this stuff happen on their watch, they actually assisted in it. Okay, it's not that it just happened and they didn't do much. They helped. So I just kind of hold a grudge, and I definitely don't see myself becoming a member of the NRA again as long as Wayne LaPierre's there. And to be honest with you, they would have to show me some positive growth before I even if he left tomorrow, before I'd want to become a member again, because I just don't trust them. Well, that's just my little venting spiel for now. I hope you're having a good one. Please subscribe. If you're not subscribed, please hit the thumbs up. If you like this video, I really appreciate that. Have a good one.